Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast. Smash that subscribe button, hit the bell notification button, drop a like on the video, all that good stuff that we need you guys to do. Continue supporting the channel. This is Thursday Tier Talk on a Friday evening, just before Luton and everything kicks off. Caught up yesterday, had a lot on yesterday, couldn't get to Thursday Tier Talk. Darren wasn't available. Young Brody made his communion yesterday and we're going over to see him tomorrow. Can't wait to see that. So I said I'd put together something today because we want to give you our predictions, continue that good vein of form. I have a couple of bets for Beat the Bookie as well. And also we have a couple of news articles to talk about as well. Nothing major, nothing crazy, short enough show, but we'll get through it anyway. Got to put it out there. Now we got to keep the grind going, keep creating day in, day out. Don't forget, join me at 8 o'clock as well. We're going to have Ian back on again for that catch-up show on Flat Earth this week. We're talking about Flat Earth and Flat Earthers and get his views on it. You know, I like a good conspiracy and these good things that people talk about and stuff like that. So check that out tonight. We'll have a bit of crack on that. So we'll kick off with our Premier League preview. Luton versus Everton starts off first of all. I think this one, Luton with home advantage. I think it has Luton written all over. I think Everton will be more relaxed now that they're safe from relegation and all that kind of good stuff. We hear that they're talking to 777 today in relation to their finances and they're putting a plan together. I hope that works out well for them. I'm not too sure what 777 are like, but a lot of soundings out there where it may or may not be a good thing for Everton, but we'll see where it goes. They seem to be the ones they're going to partner with. And as they move into that lovely new stadium down on the docks as well, good luck to Everton. But I think Luton will take this one. I think their backs are against the wall. They have to get a win, and I think they may end up getting it. And I think the crowd and the location might just push them over marginally 2-1. Arsenal versus Bournemouth is the 12:30 kickoff in the morning, an early start for the Gunners at the Emirates. Again, this very like the City game as well. Interesting, really. I think Arsenal are on a great run at the moment. I think they're doing really, really well. They're showing all the signs of a championship winning side. You know, scoring plenty of goals, not conceding a huge amount. I know we had the London Derby and all that, but I think this is one that Arsenal will get over the line again. Bournemouth, on the other hand, have been in really, really good form and playing really good football. And even when they lose, they don't lose in a way where it's kind of like that was a poor performance. They play a good brand of football. Of course, Solanke, the ex-Liverpool guy from us, is doing really, really well. But lots of really good things to be excited about if you're a Bournemouth fan. And it could potentially be a tricky one, but I don't expect it to be. And I expect Arsenal to run out 2-1 winners. I still think they'll have to grind it out and I think they'll have to work hard for it. But I think they'll have to enough to get over Bournemouth, who have had a really, really good season. Up next, Brentford versus Fulham. Fulham have been the Jekyll and the Hyde this season, really, aren't they? You don't really know which Fulham you're going to get. They can be unbelievable or they can be absolutely disastrous. I expect Brentford to get over the line here. Thomas Frank has had a very, very indifferent season as well. Brentford have been so poor. Really dropping poor results. And funny enough, their form really, really dipped post-Christmas when Ivan Toney came back as well. We were expecting a bump from Ivan Toney that would have lifted Brentford out of the doldrums. But since January when he's come back, they've kind of flattered to deceive and they've gone down, down, down. And only in recent weeks have they picked up results that have stopped them looking over the shoulder. They were getting very close to the relegation zone, and it was really important that they picked up some of those results. But tomorrow I expect Brentford to get over the line and Ivan Toney to be on the score sheet. Burnley versus Newcastle. This is going to be a tough one for Burnley. They have been showing signs in recent weeks where they're playing really, really good football, but Newcastle have been on a tear, haven't they? And I expect them to continue that. Alexander Isak, incredible this season as well, even with some of the time he missed some injury and stuff like that, and even with Newcastle with the injuries they've had to endure and stuff like that, the season kind of panned out not what they wanted. The struggle in the Champions League not being kind of geared for it really, bound out of that, and then their struggles in the league and stuff like that. But in recent times they found form, players returning and all that kind of stuff. So I expect Newcastle to beat Burnley tomorrow. It'll be a tough trip to Turf Moor as it always is. But yeah, Burnley with their own struggles and stuff like that, trying to play a real good brand of football under Vincent Kompany. In recent weeks they've shown what that real good brand of football looks like, but it might be too little too late. Sheffield United versus Nottingham Forest, and we often say Sheffield United relegated, record-breaking number of goals conceded, all that kind of stuff, up against the Derby record and all that kind of stuff. But I think once you get relegated, I think players, that kind of pressure comes off the players and they play with kind of a level of freedom. And I think Sheffield United tomorrow would like nothing more than to drag Forest down into the relegation zone. So I'm going for a Sheffield United win tomorrow. I think Forest have had their own struggles, where they have players there. They've definitely missed Awoni up front, and him sitting in the stands just doesn't help at all. He's been their talisman this season, really, especially on the back of losing Brendan Johnson to Spurs. But I have a funny feeling Sheffield United aren't going to bow out on a whimper, and they could pick up the win here tomorrow. And then, as we spoke about, Man City versus Wolves. Now, typically you would look at this and go, this could be a tough kind of fixture. Gary O'Neill sets up Wolves really strong. They are going to attack at times. We know what way they can break. Man City, although they've been winning and they've been getting results and stuff like that, at times they've kind of found it a little bit difficult. But certainly not at home. At home they've been an absolute a pillar of strength. So I expect Man City to win tomorrow. And it'll be interesting to see on the back of the Arsenal result, because there will be pressure there. If Arsenal can beat Bournemouth and put up those other 3 points, City will be looking going, this is quite a task. These guys aren't going away. So let's see what happens there, but I expect City to win. Wolves, with their own injury stuff and all, missing Pedro Neto and all, is a massive loss and stuff like that for them. He's really their talisman at times. And we even seen when they played there, I think was it last week or something like that, they fielded the side with so many changes and stuff like that. Very difficult for Gary O'Neill, but shout out to Gary O'Neill, has done a real good job at Wolves this season. Next up, Brighton versus Aston Villa. We got Brighton, which again are kind of that Jekyll and Hyde as well. Brighton stick to their guns, that attacking style of play. The only way they know how to play under De Zerbi, attacking all the time. Aston Villa coming into town on the back of a really poor result against Olympiacos. So the question for Emery here is, knowing that he knows what he knows in the league at the moment in terms of his positioning for the Champions League, I think he is 7 points clear from Spurs at the moment, but Spurs I think do have a game in hand, if I'm correct. But is he willing to roll the dice on that? Could he make changes tomorrow on Sunday against this Brighton team and make sure that he has a full squad going to Olympiacos next week for that second leg? It's going to be crucial to them in terms of winning some silverware. They've done an unbelievable job this season at Aston Villa and Emery as well to find themselves in fourth, Champions League place tied down. No room margin for error or room for error at the moment. We have confirmed now that fifth spot is going to Germany, so it's not coming to the Premier League, which is so disappointing really when you think about how we talk about the Premier League and the power of the Premier League and it being the best league in the world and all this kind of thing. Not being able to get that over the line is a tough one for teams to palate. I'm sure a lot of teams would have been banking on that fifth spot going through the season this season. This one I'm going to call it a draw. Aston Villa coming off a tough game last night. We know that the transition from the Thursday and the Sunday can create a problem and stuff like that. But it depends as well. Will Emery have to make changes and stuff like that, give players rest, so he has a full squad going into next Thursday for the away leg at Olympiacos? For Brighton, God knows which Brighton is going to show up. We're not too sure. I think they're kind of pattering out of the season now. Very disappointing season for De Zerbi. Struggled very much being back in Europe for their first time really. But yeah, I'm going to go for a draw on this one. Then Chelsea versus West Ham. West Ham, with their own struggles at the moment, got a good draw against us last weekend. But I think they're struggling overall, and I think Moyes' time has come, not from my point of view, but I think they've decided that, and I think the players know that as well. I think they also know that the likes of Paqueta and Kudus and players like that may or may not be there next season. Who knows what's going to change there if a new manager comes in. But heading to the bridge for a tough game against Chelsea, who are buoyed after doing a real good job on Spurs last night. Really played well. And Chelsea have been playing really, they've been putting up some decent results as of late and stuff like that. And you're beginning to see, as players return and players start to find their feet and play more with each other and stuff like that and all, you're starting to see maybe signs, telltale signs, and green shoots of this Chelsea side for next season as well. So I expect a Chelsea win at the bridge against West Ham on Sunday. Then the Super Sunday, of course, is Liverpool versus Spurs. Spurs coming in on the back of some atrocious results Got slapped up by Arsenal, but came back into the game second half, played really, really well, but couldn't get the draw. Got beaten badly by Chelsea last night, and then Sunday off to Anfield to play against ourselves. We will be doing a preview for the game. There's a lot to speak about in relation to Liverpool and stuff like that. A lot of news coming out of the club this week, including a disaster of a home kit for next season, stuff like that. Nike really doing us dirty in their last season as we head back to Adidas for the 25-26 season, I think it is. Again, both teams in really poor form. The intriguing thing on this Liverpool Spurs one will be, who will Jurgen Klopp pick to start? What will be the starting 11? Will Mo Salah be in there? Will he stick to his conviction? And if Mo Salah's in there, then what was the issue last week against West Ham and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of stuff there. We'll talk about it. That'll be tomorrow. We'll drop the preview for the Spurs game. But again, I'm thinking a draw. I just think this season's just going to go out on a whimper, really. We've guaranteed Champions League football now, so it doesn't really matter at this stage, to be honest. And then we round out with Crystal Palace versus Man United. This is a tough game for United, heading to Selhurst Park on a Monday night. Last place you want to be. Palace under Glasner absolutely rejuvenated so many players, from Hughes and Wharton in the midfield to Esse, Elise, Mateta, all these players. We seen them firsthand when we were over at Anfield for the Crystal Palace game. These guys are really well organised, look like they're really well coached, and look like they're invigorated as well at the tail end of the season. And I'm expecting a Palace win on Monday night. I think for Man United, all the soundings coming out about, we'll talk in a few minutes about how the squad is up for sale. Any offers that are come in that are reasonable offers for any players there, doesn't sound like, with maybe a handful, 3-4 players, every other player is available to leave or go, and Bruno had responded to that as well. We're seeing soundings out of Marcus Rashford and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but there are picks for the weekend. So we're going Luton, Arsenal, Brentford, Newcastle, Sheffield United, Man City, a draw with Brighton and Villa, Chelsea to beat the Hammers, a draw at Anfield in the Super Sunday, Liverpool Spurs, and Palace to beat Man United on Monday night. Really looking forward to that game, actually. Really enjoyed looking at Palace at the moment, except when they play us. Now, I did mention I had 2 bets picked out. So I did a goal scorer bet, and I did players to be shown a card to be booked bet. Both reasonably simple bets. So for the goal scorer bet, I went with Kai Havertz for Arsenal versus Bournemouth anytime. Ivan Toney for Brentford versus Fulham. Phil Foden, Mr. Player of the Year from the Riders Association, was named that today, having an unbelievable season. So Phil Foden goes in there as well. He'd be buoyed by that award as well and want to get on the score sheet. And I rounded it out with Mateta, that powerhouse up front for Crystal Palace, who's in unscintillating form at the moment. 26-1. Havertz, Ivan Toney, Phil Foden and Mateta, 26-1. To be shown a card, I picked out 4. So I picked out the Corey off Everton. So hopefully that happens tonight. Get on that early because it's kicking off, I think, at 8 o'clock. Palhinha off Fulham. Lemina off Wolves. And I rounded it out with Christian Romero off Spurs. Sure to pick up a booking against Liverpool's front 3. And if the 4 of those get booked, 104-1. So as we always say, gamble responsibly, folks. They're your 2 bets. So your goal scorer once again, Havertz, Toney, Foden and Mateta, 26-1. And to be shown a card, Decore, Palhinha, Lemina and Romero, 104-1. 5 on each of those. You get a nice return if they come back and enjoy it and stuff like that. As always, gamble responsibly and don't be gambling with money you cannot afford to lose. Right, in news today, Man City. Let's start with Man City. A lot of talk at the moment that Man City have been issuing legal letters, cease and desist letters, not only to sports broadcasting, but also to content creators in relation to talking and discussing and having a view on the guilty side, potentially, of these 115 breaches. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. A lot of talk out there at the moment that Mark Goldbridge might have received one and all this kind of stuff, and let's see what happens there. But it's getting very sensitive, and it must be getting very close to something about to happen, because if they're getting that sensitive, they don't want the narrative out there kind of skewing the court case or whatever it is, because we know once this court case is decided, there's no room for appeal. This isn't going to the court of arbitration to change it or anything like that. Jadon Sancho the other night balling out for Dortmund. Two fantastic semi-finals, I have to say. We spoke about the refereeing last night on Henry's channel, but really sets up for two fantastic games coming up this week as well. Who knows who's going to make it to the final? Who knows? We could even have an all-German final. Who knows? Could Harry Kane finally get his hands on that piece of silverware that he craves that isn't a golden boot? Phil Foden, as we said, voted FWA, the Football Writers Association Player of the Year. I think it's well deserved. I think he's carried City at times when Haaland had dropped off or got injured, or KDB wasn't there, or Rodri had a bit of a drop off or was out. So hats off to Phil Foden. I think he's had a fantastic season, and especially being surrounded by those players. It's not that difficult to be the guy that stands head and shoulders and above them and stuff like that. No. Obviously, Cole Palmer gets a mention as well. He had a fantastic season for Chelsea, to name a few. Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa. So many players having real good seasons, but I always say the measure really is that level of pressure. That level of pressure, whether you're competing in the middle of the table, you're going through a transition, but you look really good and you're putting up the numbers, or whether you're at the top end when that pressure comes on you. Champions League football, deep into the cups, always in the title race and all that kind of stuff. That for me is what holds that water. So hats off to Phil Foden. What else do we want to talk about? Spoke about Jadon Sancho. United, let's touch on United and then that'll be it, folks. United sounds like the squad has been put up for sale, or is available for sale. And Bruno came out and it was kind of like, if you want me to be here, I'll be here. If you don't want me to be here, fine, I'll move on if offers come in and all that kind of stuff. So how would you feel about that as United fans? Who are the players? We often hear United fans reacting after matches going, they all gotta go, like us all when we react to our own teams and stuff like that. But you do feel at times looking at that squad, that United squad, that it's just not good enough. It's fallen short greatly again this season. They are in the final of an FA Cup, so they could end up with a bit of silverware at the end of the season, pending on Man City. But again, in terms of that level and where they want to be, and crashing out of the Champions League the way they did was kind of embarrassing. So many other records getting broken throughout the season and stuff like that, and just looking very ordinary against teams they should be easily putting away. Marcus Rashford, horrific form. Anthony out of the team for a while with the allegations, came back in, has been horrific. Bruno, for all his tenacity and in trying to push them forward and push them on as much as he could, at times has struggled as well, and sometimes people have seen him as being a hindrance in the team at times. Garnacho has done what he's done. I think he's deserved a kind of a spot there in his showings and stuff like that. Hoyland has come in and at times he has delivered and stuff like that, but at times he has struggled as well. But he's kind of new in and he's a younger guy, and at times the team just really hasn't supported him the way they wanted. Players like Varane and Casemiro really coming to the end of their United career now, to be honest, need to be kind of moved on. The guys they wanted moved on originally, Harry Maguire and McTominay and players like that, should they now be moved on, or have they done enough to stake a claim to be in the squad? Who knows? Lissandro, who's been out for a lot of the season with injury, coming back in and then going out again, so they've really badly missed him. So many of them and stuff like that. Mainu had a breakout season. What a discovery he's been, what a player he's going to turn out to be. But there's less than a handful there, I would say, of players that you would say, yeah, keep him. And look, this is not a United thing for me. I've said the same about my own team, Liverpool. You can make a case for most of those players and how they've played this season, potentially having questions over their future at Liverpool as well. And I think United are kind of in the same boat as well. I think it needs a lot of freshening. It'll be interesting to see what moves Ineos make. Does Ten Hag stay there? We heard talk of Bruno potentially being used as a package for Frankie de Jong. Does that work for Barcelona? We've heard this a number of times, and the whole Frankie de Jong thing just becomes a real mess throughout the summer and a real distraction. It's going to be a really, really difficult summer. The Euros is on, so you're going to get your business done early, or you're going to pay the price at the tail end if these players have really, really good Euros. An extra 10, 15, 20 million on their valuation. We know how sensitive FFP is at the moment, and profit and sustainability and all that kind of stuff. So teams are going to have to be super, super careful as well. The magnifying glasses on that now, and other teams no doubt are going to be cut out on stuff as well. So that's really it, folks. That's just a quick summary. I know it's a kind of a diluted Thursday tier talk on a Friday evening, but I thought I'd squeeze it in and get it in there. So I hope you appreciate it. As always, drop down in the comments what your pick for the weekend. Let us know if you're having a bet, what you think your bet's going to be, all that kind of stuff. We'd love to get feedback off you. Let us know your thoughts on the United squad, on Phil Foden as player of the season, player of the year, and all that kind of good stuff as well. Let us know what you're thinking in the Champions League at the moment. Who do you see going through? Is it going to be the typical Real PSG? Is that what we're looking at in these semi-finals? Could we get an all-German one? I thought Dortmund were unbelievable the other night against PSG. That game, what a game. And shout out, I thought Anthony Taylor did an unbelievable job refereeing it the other night. And I want to see that Anthony Taylor this weekend in the Premier League. No excuses. I don't want to see the typical Anthony Taylor that we get that's just causing mayhem and terrible decisions. Until next time, folks, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button and drop a like on the video. I'll catch you again at 8 o'clock, Aina Beyond, and we'll be talking about flat earth. Cheers, folks.